All right, in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to find a bias. Okay, and I have made videos on this, but this is more of an updated one because some of the videos that I made on bias in the past, it was more tailored to my old strategy that I don't even trade anymore. Like that old strategy, by the way, nothing wrong with it or anything if you do trade it. Me saying that, don't let that concern you, right? It's just, well, I found a better way to do things, of course. I just get better results doing the strategy that I do now. And I'm going to tell you how I approach the marketplace with building the bias at this point in my career, right? So, Euro USD. We're going to take this example from this morning. So, what I did this morning with my mentees, first things first, is we pulled up this daily chart. So what you need to understand is each candle tells you a story. What that candle does on the previous day, what liquidity it has taken is very revealing. Okay. So for example, we saw this really big, strong expansion right here on Euro USD. It is, at the time that I'm making this video, it is April the 11th, 2024. So it's Thursday today. And this big expansion was on Wednesday. So we had this close. Okay. And here's how I approached this. Okay. I have this really big, strong close right here. We came down, we did take a higher time frame sell side. You see that? But it didn't respect it. See how it displaced beneath it? And we have a fair value gap right here. It displaced beneath it. It had no respect for its support whatsoever. Super strong close. Now, when you see something like this, with conviction like this, with such a strong close like this, that's in a downswing like this, that's not respecting support like that, that gives you something to work with. Not only that, but we had a swing high put in. And I've taught you the signature. Highs high in the middle, lower high on the left, lower high on the right. Whenever you have a swing high like that put in, a fresh swing high like that put in, and it's doing it like, and it's not coming down into any major support or respecting any major support, that third candle is going to be a very powerful draw. I understood that right away this morning. It took me 0 time to establish that this was going to be bearish, or at least until we took out this liquidity. That's the key thing here. And this is what you really need to pay attention to. Pay very close attention here, because the liquidity is what gives it validity. Let me say that again. The liquidity is what gives it validity. But the thing is, you also got to realize this is in a discount marketplace. So I had that strong close, and think of it like that set the intention coming into the next day. That momentum it's very clearly to the downside. Now what I'll do next is, because I do like a top-down analysis, I go from the daily chart, then the 4-hour, and I just work my way down. Every single morning I do this like this. I just work my way down, and I'll go to like the 4-hour chart, right? And what I'll do here is I'll look at where we are at the current moment. And what I was doing this morning was I said, okay, I understand that it had this huge move lower. We've already established that that's bearish. It took out that sell side, didn't respect it. It has the inverse fair value gap, and it's not coming down into any major support at this current moment until the next major level of support is going to obviously be this higher time frame sell side, previous day's lows. And whenever you're in that downswing like that, and it's super bearish like that, price's sole objective is to continuously run out previous day's lows until it takes out a big enough liquidity pool that's going to give it that's going to provide enough liquidity for that reversal, which we have taken out at this point, as you can see. Now, coming to a brand new day, I have these lows intact. That gives me something to work with. That gives me a bias. That gives me direction, because I know it's probably likely going to want to target that, just based on what that daily chart told me, guys. Just based on the signatures that was provided to me on that daily chart, I understand that. It told me that just by the price action. And then I have this low left intact. That's the key thing. It's left intact, but because it could only serve as a draw if it's intact. But once it takes it, it's done with. So let's go to lower time frame. So now I want you to pay close attention. Very, very close attention. So what happens here? This thing comes down and it targets that. It targets that low right there. That's previous day's lows, sell side liquidity. Okay. That's a big, big liquidity pool that we were just talking about. Again, we're in that downswing. That's why it wanted to target that. It wants to target the liquidity, and that gives it, even if we take that liquidity right there, may I remind you, let's zoom out. You understand that right beneath this, we have this higher time frame sell side that it's aiming for. You see that right there? So it didn't respect that. It did not respect that daily imbalance. We've already confirmed that. It didn't respect that daily sell side right here. So if it didn't respect that, yeah, it's got previous day's lows that's going to serve as a draw, but of course, This is the level that it's really drawn to right here. It's that higher time frame sell side. That's that ultimate objective that it's shooting for. So Euro USD, it came down here in right before London, and we took out previous day's lows, and it did provide a nice reversal as a result. But did I figure that this was going to be the absolute bottom? I didn't. I made that very clear when I was talking with my mentees today, that this is probably going to get taken. I'm going to look for this to get taken here into New York session, and then we'll see if we can get a reversal off that level right there. Okay, because we have higher time frame sell side that it's drawn to. Remember, it didn't have any other, like it didn't respect those other daily levels of support, higher time frame support. So if it didn't do that, well, then what's next up? You simply look down, identify it, boom, right there. So we had it do that, right? It had that push down to previous day's lows. It found support, cool, boom, pushed up, as you can expect, after it takes out a big liquidity pool like that. Then it comes up and it does what? It takes out Asian session highs buy side, big level. And now, being that we have that liquidity taken, it has necessary liquidity. Think of like it has necessary liquidity to make the next trip lower. And that's what it does. It makes the next trip lower. And then we have news that happens at 8:30. News is a key time. It's a key time for manipulation runs, for fake runs. And what happens here is we get this push lower from news. Look at my cursor. See how it sends this thing lower from news? And it takes out higher time frame daily sales. This push lower right here, that push lower right there took out, zoom out, that level right there, daily sell side. So at this point though, I'm looking out for a reversal, okay? Because this is what gave it that direction to start off the day. But once it takes out this liquidity right here, you're getting a little bit in that territory where it's a little bit more risky for a short. Okay, it's more risky for a short now because it's taking that liquidity. But beforehand, this is the key thing I really want to drive home here. But beforehand, you had that draw intact. You had that conviction. You had that strength, but you still had this liquidity down here intact. So it was able to serve as a draw. That was the case, guys. It was able to serve as a draw on liquidity. And that's what it ended up doing here. You can see it ended up taking it out right there. That gave it direction. And then you got this push up right here. But that push up right there. And then it ended up, of course, attacking the sell side, attacking the higher time frame level. It gives a push up off that, of course. And that was what happened. And the same deal. I want you to kind of take your attention to up here as well. We were talking about this the other day as well. Look at my cursor. You see right here? From Tuesday, coming into Wednesday of this week, my bias was bearish. Okay, again, let me actually go to replay. I was talking about this with my mentees on this particular day, coming into Wednesday. My bias was bearish. Why was it bearish? What does this price action right here tell you on that chart? What does that tell you? Because it closed like this, guys. It closed like that. Well, it came up and it took out higher time frame buy side, didn't it? It did. Now, how did it take that buy side? How did it take that buy side? That's the key thing you got to ask yourself. When you come up into key levels like this, of support and resistance like this, you got to ask yourself, how is it reacting off of it? Did it displace above it? Did it close above it? Did it clear it? Did it respect it? Or did it reject off of it? Did it have a weak close off of it? So you can see, we came up here and we took out daily buy side liquidity, but not only daily buy side liquidity, weekly. That's the previous week's highs. That's a big liquidity pool, guys. And I've taught you this in my liquidity lessons. That's a big liquidity pool. We're talking about previous week's highs right there. It takes that out. It's daily buy side, of course. And this is how it closes. Is that conviction? Is that conviction? That little red doji candle right there, that rejection off that, is that conviction to the upside? It's not. Listen to price. It came up, it opened up right here on this particular day, and then it ramped up and it took out this buy side and it had a weak close. It had a weak close after taking this buy side right here. It's done with. It swept that liquidity. It's done with. It can't serve as a draw now. What's it going to want to do now? It's going to seek opposing sell side because it already took out this buy side. It has no reason to move higher now. It has no reason to move higher now in the near future because it already has necessary liquidity. It has daily buy side. It has that level right there. And we still get this third candle drawdown below right here. We noticed that as well. That's going to be a magnet for price right there. So it's a combination of things. That gave me direction on this particular day. That gave me direction right there. Okay, and then I was anticipating lower prices. That's what we got. Now, what about right here? Let's take it back another day. What about right here? What was I anticipating was going to happen on this particular day? Like what was well, I'm coming into Tuesday and I see this, it closes like this. What do you think I'm anticipating? What does that tell you right there? What is that candle? What's the storyline here? What does that tell you? Notice how it displaced above the previous highs. You see how we had the high of this candle right here? Look how it displaced and closed above it. Bullish. And then what you got up here. So if it didn't respect that, if it did not respect that high right there, it did not respect that liquidity as resistance, look up, identify your next key liquidity pool. Where's it at? Boom, right here. It's that simple, guys. Liquidity is right there. It's going to reach for that because it didn't respect this one. So it's going to want to reach for that. But also another key detail, swing low put in. Low still in the middle, high low left, high low on the right, very bullish signature. Whenever you have that, the likelihood of it taking that third candle, considering, of course, it's the trend and everything as well, it's going to want to have that push up, very likely. So we have a combination of facts. So yes, my bias coming to this particular day, bullish. I figured it was going to ramp up and take care of that. That's what it did. It took care of it. See that? So the key takeaway here is you got to listen to price. You got to listen to the candle. Each candle holds information, and it'll tell you what it wants to do the vast majority of the time, just based on the reactions that it's given off of key levels. You got to listen to it. You got to look at what liquidity has been taken. Just like right here, we took out that buy side and we respected it, and we had a weak close. It has no reason to move higher now because it already took it. It's going to want to do what next? It's going to seek opposing sell side. That's what it does. Right here, we came down, and this is how it closed. Pay attention to how it closes. Somebody may look at this and be like, but it took out liquidity now right here, right? So now it wants to seek the opposing buy side. It did not respect it though, didn't it? Look at this. That's key. Did it respect that low? It didn't. That's not a stopper and signature, guys. That's not a stopper and signature, but you also got to consider it's also taking out previous week's highs, okay? You got to understand where you are in the grand scheme of things here. It's taking out previous week's highs as well. Now you get a strong displacement beneath this low, and you have an inverse fair value. So it did not respect these levels of support. So look down. Where's your next key level? Right there. It's going to target that. It gives you direction today to work with. It targets it just like that. Each candle holds information. Each candle tells you a story. And that's the storyline that we're working with. Okay. Now USD CAD as well. On this one today, we had this really strong expansion yesterday. You look at my candle, or you look at my cursor, look at this candle. What does that tell you? Look where my cursor's moving up and down. What does that tell you? What's that candle tell you? Look how it closed and had a strong displacement above these highs. That's a lot of resistance though, right, Mike? I mean, that's a lot of buy side it is, but it didn't respect it. So if it didn't respect that buy side right there, okay, and you had this strong conviction, you have this swing low put in. Look right here, what's that? Because we're coming to a brand new day, remember. We're coming to a brand new day, Thursday. That's buy side liquidity right there. So if it did not respect these previous levels, and now we have this new level of liquidity put in right here, we have a strong close. Each candle tells you a story. It set the intention coming into the day. That gives you direction. That high gives you direction, okay? And you can see what happened was we left that high intact today, and then it pulled back into this higher time frame imbalance right here. You see that? Now, while it's pulling back into this imbalance, it's still there. That liquidity is still there. It's still valid. That gives you direction to work with. So we understand that because we got this high intact, it's probably going to want to take that here soon. It gives you direction. So you're not lost in these little fluctuations because you understand ultimately it's headed for that. And it helps you navigate these liquidity pools better. Because like we saw this, like if you're not aware of that, somebody may see like this big push lower right here, and they're going to think, dang, that thing's so bearish. Look how weak that is. Look how strong that was. But we also understand, okay, this was influenced by news. This is 8:30 high impact news. What do we understand about high impact news, guys? That's a key time for stop runs, for fake runs, turtle soups. So we have this thing push lower immediately after news. So a lot of times, the first move that you see from news, not always, but a lot of times it's a fake run. It moves lower right here and it makes a new low of day. It's taking out significant sell side, and it comes down into a higher, that imbalance that I was just talking about on the higher time frame 4 hour. We push down into it right here. That's a higher time frame level of support that you're pushing down to. Now, here's the key thing. We still got that hop there. It's still there. It's still valid. It was never taken. So it's able to serve as a draw once you get that change in trend. Okay, we had that strong expansion. We already established that from the daily chart. The daily chart told us everything we needed to know in regard to the direction. It told us where it's going to want to go to from the direction. And we have that liquidity previous day's highs intact. Okay, and then what does price do? We have manipulation at high impact news in New York. That's a key time for manipulation swings. As I was saying, it pushes lower. And think of this like your Judas swing as well. Because I mean, of course, sometimes it'll save the bulk of that manipulation for, on days where it's like really high impact news releases, it'll save the bulk of the manipulation for New York session a lot of times. So like those Judas swings, you don't really see a hold up as much like in London if you have high impact news in New York, because it's going to destroy it. That was the case here. So this is basically replaces the Judas swing. Think of it like that. That's going to replace that Judas swing because it's high impact news and it moves lower, but we still have that direct, like we still have that clear liquidity up above. That's going to serve as a magnet. It's going to pull price to it because it was never taken. But we do have this liquidity down below taken. We do got this imbalance taken, and then it does what? It seeks that opposing buy set up there. Gives you direction. That's all it does. It gives you direction. But then once it takes that liquidity, of course, it's gone. It's done with. And then it's buy setups are more risky, of course, at that point because it's cleaned it out. It doesn't got that draw anymore. So that about wrapped it up, though. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got immense value out of this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you later.